Our next speaker is a Glasgow teacher and has been a Glasgow councillor. As a parent at Hillhead High, I'm very sad to see him leave the head of English, but we are very, very proud, as I'm sure you are, that the General Secretary of the EIS this year is, for years to continue, is Larry Flannigan, and we thought of no other way to welcome him to his post than to ask him to give his address to Glasgow Mayday. So a very warm welcome to Larry Flannigan.
Well, brothers and sisters, comrades and colleagues, may I first of all thank the Trades Council for the invitation to speak here today. And on behalf of the Educational Institute of Scotland, Scotland's largest teacher union, bring to you the warmest greetings from ourselves on this Labour Day celebration. This is a double first for me, colleagues. It's the first time I've been close to the platform at a Trades Council event, and it is the first time that I have attended May Day wearing a collar and tie and a suit. And there was a dress code dilemma this morning as I was getting ready, but my predecessor Ronnie Smith did remind me several times in the handover period that I now represented 56,000 teachers and lecturers. So I thought we'd make the effort and put on the suit to address you this morning. Over the last few years, colleagues, the EIS have been running a campaign entitled "Why Should Our Children Pay?" And that clearly reflects our concern around education and the lives of young people in Scotland. But it would be just as easy to enlarge the question to say, why should any of us pay? Why should we be paying for the fallout from what can only be described as a casino economy where the house has gone bust? Last week the Sunday Times published its 2012 Rich List. And this is what I had to say: Britain's wealthiest people have never been richer, with a combined fortune of £414 billion. Now it's hard to get your head around figures like that, but to give you a comparison, that money would wipe out 5 times over the condemned coalition's current campaign, cuts campaign. And what is the response of the UK government to that circumstance? It's to reduce the top rate of tax, so that these rich people who have never been richer become even more rich. A step that in itself will cost the government nearly £5 billion over the next few years, and that equates to even more cuts facing the working class in this country. Colleagues, I attended last Thursday a hustings for the local elections here in Glasgow, organised by the EIS in Glasgow. And there were various candidates, and one of them was the Tory candidate. And I did think I wondered at one point whether the chap actually knew that he was a Tory, because he seemed to be in favour of a great number of things that chimed with the teacher audience. Now it turned out his wife is a teacher, an EIS member, and I'm pretty sure she wrote the speech for him. But this candidate was in favour of smaller class sizes, was in favour of more English as an additional language teachers, was in favour of nursery teachers in nursery schools, was even in favour of protecting our pensions. A very long list that you would find it hard to disagree with. But then, in his summing up, he spoiled it all by saying, of course, there's no money to pay for any of this, because the last Labour government spent it all. Well, colleagues, that is a lie. It is a myth on a par with the idea that we're all in this together. Because there is money in this country. On top of the private wealth of the billionaires and the bankers, and let's not miss those, cretinous crew out in our assault on the rich. The top firms in this country have £700 billion sitting in cash reserves that they are unwilling to invest because they don't think they have a favourable profit margin return. Whilst at the same time, we have over 3 million people idle. And what's really missing in this country is not money, what is missing is a political will to tax the rich appropriately, and that means heavily. And to direct our economy towards growth and jobs. What was also revealed last week in that rich list was the simple fact that the gap between the richest and the poorest has never been wider. And referring back to my time in education as a teacher, it is an obscenity, an absolute obscenity, that in 2012, if you look at our schools in Scotland, the single biggest barrier to progress for the biggest group of our young people, the insurmountable barrier for many of them, remains the impact of poverty on their lives. 1 in 10 of our children in Scottish schools live in severe poverty. And if we return to the slogan, why should our children pay? Relying on my skills as an English teacher, I can tell you that's a rhetorical question. The answer is obvious, that they should not be paying. We had last week, colleagues, the local elections. And on one hand, it's very disappointing to see that in areas like Glasgow, only 1 in 3 people actually bothered to vote. But it is easy to understand the disillusionment that people have in politicians and in politics. But if we analyse the vote itself, not only in Glasgow but across Scotland, it is clear that the UK government's austerity programme has been decisively rejected by the people of Scotland and the UK. And whilst we can congratulate those who have been elected to public office, I think we also, as a trade union movement, have a clear message to our newly elected councillors. You have not been voted in to administer government cuts. You have been voted in there to fight back against them. And there is a simple addendum, colleagues, to that if you do not fight back against them, then we will fight back against you. This trade union movement, brothers and sisters, a movement we are all part of, a movement we can be proud of and whose history we celebrate today. We are the absolute backbone of the resistance to and the rejection of austerity and cutbacks as a future for our country. So let's enjoy the May Day holiday, but let's recognise there is work to be done in building this fight back, to protect our jobs, protect our services, our pensions, our communities. And I know that we're going to hear later from the campaign against deportations, which is a Glasgow campaign we should all be proud of and be part of. And let us also, on this day when we remember our history, be confident that we have the strength and the will not only to engage in these battles, but to win them. Thank you very much, Paul.